بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم رب زدنا علما اللهم افتح نعمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام ربي يسر ولا تؤسر وتمم الخير صلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Hope everybody is well and in the best of health. I'd like to welcome everybody back to our Fiqh of Fasting course. Today, inshallah, we'll be continuing on from where we left off. Previously, we discussed the definition of fasting. We started off with the virtues and then the definition. And we talked about the different types of fasts. We also discussed the topic of intention, when the intention is required to be made of the fast of Ramadan. We talked about who is the month of Ramadan obligatory upon and who is excused from fasting. We talked about what is classified as reasonable fear for those who are ill and wanting to break the fast, or not fasting altogether. We said that it needs to be based on reasonable fear. And lastly, the last thing we discussed was the fidya. Inshallah, today we'll be continuing on from the section of a woman who begins her periods, her menstrual cycle during the month of Ramadan, inshallah. So, if a woman begins her menses before the entrance of Fajr namaz, then she needs to abstain from fasting the next day for the duration that she is menstruating. Okay, as we talked before, we said that there are certain individuals who are excused from fasting and they will have a choice to fast or not fast. And then we also talked about some individuals who are not allowed to fast altogether. So a woman who is on a menses and that woman who is experiencing postnatal bleeding, she is not allowed to fast. And this has been established from the Sharia. So if she begins her menses before the entrance of Fajr, then she is not allowed to fast and she needs to abstain from fasting, which means that she is required to continue her day as normal, meaning that she would eat, drink as usual. And she'll continue to do so until her menses end. If the menses begin during the fasting day, then the fast that she was keeping will be nullified and it doesn't count, meaning that she needs to make this day up after the month of Ramadan as soon as she's able to do so. And all those fasts that she misses because of a menses or postnatal bleeding, then she needs to keep a record of this so that she knows exactly how much she needs to make up after the month of Ramadan. So a woman that's experiencing this bleeding, she is permitted to eat and drink during the day, but she is required to not to do this publicly. Okay. So she eats not and drinks, but she does it in a place where nobody else is there and watching her, out of the sanctity of the month of Ramadan. And if a woman, she believes that she's not allowed to eat or drink, okay, because of the month of Ramadan, then she has to do so. She has to eat or drink. Okay, why? Because as I mentioned before, abstaining from food and drink with the intention of fasting, this has been prohibited for her in the Sharia. Okay, so like I mentioned, this same rule applies for that woman who's experiencing postnatal bleeding as well. So what does a woman do if her menses end in Ramadan, during the month of Ramadan? So if her cycle comes to an end before the entrance of Fajr, okay, then she should perform ghusl, and she needs to fast the following day, okay, and the rest of the days of Ramadan. However, if the menses or the postnatal bleeding ends and stops during the fasting day, then she performs ghusl and begins her worship, and she's required to act like a person who is fasting. She is required to act like a person who is fasting all the way till iftari time, until the Maghrib time. And this is again because of the sacredness of the month of Ramadan. This day in which this will not count, this will not count as a fast, and she also needs to make this up after Ramadan when she is able to do so. So inshallah, now we'll discuss those acts which nullify the fast, those things that break the fast. So these have been categorized into two sections. The first section, the first category is those to make this fast up, which we call qada, as well as fulfilling an expiation as well. And the second category is those actions which nullify the fast, requiring one to only make the fast up, and it doesn't need the expiation to be fulfilled for that, because there is no expiation in the second category. Okay, so what are those things? So what breaks the fast and requires qada as well as a kafara? So these are those acts which are done intentionally. So any act which normally breaks the fast, if it's not done intentionally, then there's no kafara for this. There's no kafara. So basically, such as when somebody is performing wudu and he's rinsing the mouth, but accidentally whilst rinsing the mouth, he swallows the water. Okay, he's not done this intentionally. However, because it's accidental, he breaks the fast. The qada is required, but there is no kafara. This also includes those acts which break the fast but are done without a valid reason. So there's no legal reason for him breaking the fast. For example, somebody takes medicine without a valid reason, like we mentioned before. Like for example, if somebody becomes really ill, whereby a doctor, advises them to break the fast, or they can see signs that they'll be required to break the fast, then if one does break the fast, then there's no kafara upon this person. But if somebody breaks the fast without a valid reason altogether, then a kafara is required from that person as well. Likewise, if somebody breaks the fast whilst being aware that one is fasting, okay, and he does it intentionally again. So what this is opposite of, this is opposite of forgetfully breaking the fast. Because if a person forgetfully not being aware that he's fasting and he eats or drinks, right, this will not break the fast. Okay, And as soon as the person remembers, he stops what he's doing, then the fast will remain valid. And lastly, this includes those nullifying acts which are done without being forced. Okay. Now, if somebody is being forced to break the fast, like we mentioned before, okay, then the person, his fast will nullify. However, a kafara will not be required. Okay, and the kafara, inshallah, we'll talk about what a kafara is. A kafara, an expiation, is only for the fast of the Ramadan. Okay, and this is not for the fast, other type of fast, for example, the nafil fast, sunnah fast, mustahab fast, and neither is it for the qada fast of Ramadan as well. Only for the current fast of Ramadan. Okay, a kafara will apply to. So what are those acts that break the fast, require a qada, require a makeup, and a kafara? So these are acts such as sexual intercourse, regardless if the person ejaculates or not, eating or drinking, those things that are nourishing, such as food, such as water, drinks, and etc., or eating and drinking those things that have medicinal benefit, such as eating paracetamol, vitamin tablets, without a valid reason. Okay, so even if, so let's say if a person he has a slight headache, okay, which is something normal during fasting, okay, and if a person has paracetamol because of this, then they would break the fast, would be required to make up the fast, as well as a kafara as well, fulfilling a kafara. Likewise, if a person eats or drinks those things which pleases the body in any way, okay, such as smoking a cigarette, vaping, eating those things which a person doesn't normally eat, but because he has a habit of eating these things, such as, let's say a person, he has a habit of eating his nails. Okay, so nails are something that are not normally eaten. Or let's say somebody has a weird habit of eating chalk. Okay, now because he was already in this habit and it's something that pleases that certain individual, if he was to eat this particular thing, then again this would break the fast and a kafara will be required as well. So we're not going to go into detail about all the other things as well, because if you apply this rule, okay, then any type of food which is nourishing, any type of substance which gives medicinal benefit or pleases the body in any way, then all these things, if these things are eaten or drunk, okay, or ingested without a valid reason, okay, without a valid reason, those reasons which you mentioned before, then all these things will break the fast. Qada will be required, a makeup will be required for that fast, as well as fulfilling a kafara, as well as fulfilling a kafara. So, what is a kafara? Kafara is to fast 2 lunar months. Okay, so that's if the person was to begin this expiation, this penalty, at the first of the lunar month. Okay, and if he begins during the month, the lunar month, that is, then one needs to fulfill 60 consecutive days of fasts. Okay, so let's say, for example, somebody had some food during the day of Ramadan whilst one was fasting, and he was fully aware that he was fasting and he ate intentionally. After the month of Ramadan, he will be required to make up the fast. He'd be required to make up the fast. not only will he be required to make up the fast, he'll need to pay a kafara. He needs to fulfill a kafara. And this kafara needs to be done consecutively. Okay, so what one needs to think about is that the days of Eid, okay, as well as the Ayam Tashriq, that these days, particular days, do not fall within the expiation, the kafara. Okay. Now, as well as, for example, a woman who is, so if a person was to miss a day, okay, so he's fasting, let's say 35 fasts, and on the 36th day, he decides to take a rest. Okay. Now, because he's missed a day and is not fasted consecutively these 60 days, then he needs to restart the entire 60 days again. Okay, he needs to restart this kafara, meaning that the kafara that one was doing is not valid. Okay, and he needs to do it again. If a woman begins her menses during the kafara, if her menses begin during the kafara, then as soon as her menses begin, then she will stop fasting. Okay, and however many days her menses last, then she will continue to not fast for them days, and as soon as her menses end, then she will continue her expiation, her kafara, as normal and complete the days of the kafara. If a person is genuinely unable to fast, okay, he's not able to fast based on the previous reasons again, then instead one must feed 60 poor people 2 meals. Okay, or one may feed one poor person 2 meals for 60 days, or give 60 poor people 1.6 kilograms of wheat, which is approximately half a sa. 1.6 kilograms of wheat flour, or the monetary value of this. The monetary value of this is the same as fitrana. The monetary value of this is the same as fitrana. Or the person has the choice of giving 60 poor people a full sa, which is 3.2 kilograms approximately, of dates, barley, or similar food grains, or the monetary value of this. Okay. So a person, he has all these different choices, okay, if he is not able to fast the kafara. Okay. Instead, the person will need to choose from these options that I have mentioned. Now, if a person was to commit multiple violations, he was to break his fast intentionally many times during the Ramadan, or over many Ramadan, over many years, okay, and he realizes that he needs to fulfill a kafara as well as make up them days. Now, fulfilling one kafara for the past violations that were committed, past fasts that were broken intentionally, then one kafara will be enough for all of them. Okay, and a person will not need to fulfill a kafara for each time he breaks the fast intentionally. Yes, again, if a person fulfills the kafara for the previous fasts, and again the next Ramadan he breaks the fast again intentionally, then he will be required to fulfill another kafara for that. Now moving on to the second category of those things that break the fast and only require qada and not kafara. So this category includes those acts which are done accidentally, but the person was fully aware that he was fasting. Okay, or he broke the fast, but he had a valid reason for breaking the fast. Okay, he had a valid reason for breaking the fast, and this reason is not something that we deem valid, but what the Sharia deems valid, and we discussed that in the previous part of this course. And this also includes the consumption of those things which are not nourishing, okay, are not something which a person is usually inclined towards, or he has a habit of eating, or something which pleases the body in any way. So inshallah, we'll talk about what them things could be. So eating or drinking those things that are not nourishing or have a medicinal benefit or doesn't please the body in any way. What are these things? These things could be such as eating dirt. Okay, so dirt is not something which is nourishing or has medicinal benefit. Okay, and it doesn't please the body in any way. Okay, so eating wood, eating stones, things like this. Okay, yes, if the person had a habit of, let's say, eating a particular type of soil, okay, they had a habit of eating this and it pleases the body, then that would break the fast. And not only would it break the fast, a qada will be required as well as a kafara, as discussed before. Eating leftover food that was there from the time of suhoor, sahri time, okay, and that food amounts to the size of a chickpea or more, then if a person swallowed this amount of food that remained there in the mouth, then this would break the fast. Accidentally swallowing water whilst gargling or snuffling water into the nose. So if somebody was doing wudu and whilst gargling, rinsing the mouth, he accidentally or she accidentally swallowed the water. Even though this may have been an accident, however, this breaks the fast. Okay? Swallowing saliva that is overcome by blood, okay, from the mouth. If a person swallows this, or if the person saliva and he can taste the blood, and this saliva then passes the throat, then this also breaks the fast. Likewise, deliberately vomiting a mouthful or more of sick that contains food, liquid, bile, or blood. Okay, this is something which a lot of people get confused by. People think that by vomiting the fast breaks. This is not the case. The fast will only break if the person he was to vomit deliberately. Okay, so he was to vomit deliberately, is self-induced, and the amount of vomit needs to be a mouthful as well. So if you're just a small amount of vomit and it was less than a mouthful, then this will not break the fast. Let's say this vomit only contained phlegm. Again, this will not break the fast as well. If somebody, like many people think, they vomited and they thought that the fast has broken, and thereafter they ate intentionally, then again, this person's fast has broken. If an individual, he deliberately inhales smoke, okay, is such smoke which doesn't give any benefit to the person, and the person does not enjoy it, it doesn't please him in any way, such as cigarettes or vaping. These are types of smoking which the person enjoys. So let's say a person intentionally deliberately inhales smoke, then this will break the fast as well. If a person inserts an object into the rear passage whereby it disappears, this also breaks the fast. And if a wet object is inserted into the throat or into the rear passage, even if it doesn't totally disappear, then this will break the fast, such as tests whereby we go into the hospital and undergo different types of tests, such as endoscopy. Okay. Now, because usually the camera which is then put down into the throat is lubricated, so because of this, the fast will break. So any other type of tests which we undergo, if the object is wet, okay, and is inserted into these passages, the fast will break. Likewise, ejaculation due to touching, kissing, or masturbating, this will break the fast as well. If a person is forced to break the fast, okay, even though he didn't want to, but because he was forced, this would break the fast as well. If a person was to fall unconscious, even if it was for the entire month, this will break the fast. And if a person believed that the sun had set, even though it actually didn't, and he broke the fast, then only a qada will be required and not a kafara for this. We mentioned before that if a person was to forgetfully eat or drink, okay, we said that the fast will not be invalidated. The fast will not break. But if any of the acts that we mentioned before were done forgetfully, okay, the fast will remain valid. Although, let's say somebody was watching this person who was eating forgetfully, it is wajib upon the onlooker to remind this individual, okay, and stop him from eating. However, if the person who was eating was very weak, okay, and the person that's looking, he knows that if he was to remind him, this person, he will stop eating and the weakness will increase to the extent that it'll become really difficult for him to fast and complete other acts of worship. Then in such a case, it is better, it is afdal, it is superior for that person to not remind him, okay? It's better for him to not remind him, as this is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon him. Likewise, the acts that we mentioned before, which only break the fast and do not require kafara, if a person was to do these acts again and again, okay, and if he was to do these acts again and again, then in this case, a kafara will be required, okay. So the condition is that this person does this only once, okay, but if he does it repeatedly, then a kafara will be wajib. So moving on to those acts that do not nullify the fast. So, like we mentioned before, if a person was to participate in marital relations or eating or drinking, but because he's done it forgetfully, this will not invalidate the fast. This is provided that the person, once he remembers, he stops that action as soon as he remembers. Likewise, a wet dream will not invalidate the fast. If a person was to have blood extracted, whether it was through cupping or through a syringe or any other means, this will not invalidate the fast. Insulin injections will not invalidate the fast, or any other type of injection, whether it's a vaccine. Okay, this will not invalidate the fast. As well as IV drips. The basis of this is that, like we mentioned at the start, that only those substances which enter the throat or enter the rear passage, okay, whereby reaching the digestive system, stomach, only these things will break the fast. Okay, in Arabic, these passages are known as manfadh. Okay, and everything else, such as our skin, if you were to insert anything in within that, it will not invalidate the fast. Why? Because they are not valid passages by which, if a substance was to enter, it would break the fast. Okay, these are known as masam in Arabic. Masam, pause, as you would say. So if you were to extract blood from that, or even insert anything within that using a syringe or injections, these things will not invalidate the fast. Likewise, if a person was to rub oil or cream onto the body or hair, this will not break the fast. Applying fragrances, smelling the scent of a flower or anything that is not perceptible, okay, this would not break the fast. However, this will be makruh to do so. A person should not go out their way to smell any type of scent that doesn't have a perceptible body, even though it doesn't break the fast. However, it is makruh. Likewise, it does not nullify the fast. What does not nullify the fast? Intending to break the fast, but not following it up with an action. Okay, so let's say somebody makes an intention that I'm going to break the fast by eating this slice of cake, but he then changes his intention. He doesn't follow it up. He doesn't eat it. Okay, this will not break the fast. Only the action of eating will break the fast. If a person vomits, and as long as this person, he has not done this deliberately, it wasn't self-induced. Okay, it doesn't matter how much he vomits, whether it's a mouthful or more, okay, or many mouthfuls, this person's fast will remain valid. Likewise, if a person deliberately vomits, okay, but as long as it's less than a mouthful, this will not invalidate the fast. Applying alcohol to the eyes, okay, even if the taste appears in the throat or it colors the saliva, this will not invalidate the fast, because there's a hadith of Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam to prove that applying alcohol to the eyes does not break the fast. Swallowing food that was stuck between the teeth from the suhoor, from the sahri meal, pre-dawn meal, as long as the amount was less than a chickpea size, as long as it was smaller than a chickpea. Unintentionally inhaling or ingesting smoke, dust, water vapor, steam, or a fly, this will not break the fast. Such as if, let's say, a person is walking and accidentally a fly, it flew straight into his mouth, whereby he swallowed it by unintentionally. This will not break the fast. Why? Because he wasn't able to avoid this. Okay, due to him being unable to avoid this. Sniffing nasal mucus into the throat, back into the throat, this will not break the fast. Likewise, using ear drops, okay, or putting any other substances within the ear, this will not invalidate the fast. Why? Because science, it shows that there is no passage, okay, from the ear into the brain, into the body, which will be classed as a manfadh, a valid passage according to the Sharia. Okay, so because of this reasoning, if a person was to apply eardrops into the ears, this will not invalidate the fast. This is obviously provided that the ears are not perforated. If the ears are perforated, then if a person was to apply any eardrops within the ear, this will break the fast. As well as eye drops as well. So eye drops do not break the fast. However, because of the difference of opinion amongst the contemporary ulama, okay, some ulama who say that there is actually a passage from the eye, okay, into the throat, into the nose and throat. Because of this, if one was to apply eye drops, it would break the fast. So the best thing is that if one is able to avoid using eye drops, okay, and is not needed, it's not required, then it's best to avoid it. However, the majority opinion is that applying eye drops, anything of the like into the eyes, will not invalidate the fast. If a person was to begin the fast in a state of major impurity, in a state of janaba, whereby ghusl is required, okay, or if a person was to have a wet dream during the fast, and even if this person remains in this entire state throughout the entire day, this will not break the fast, okay? It will not do anything to the fast. However, obviously, one needs to perform the ghusl in order to fulfill the prayers, in order to fulfill the salah. Likewise, if a person was to take a bath, okay, even if it's just to cool down, okay, or place any wet garment just to cool down, this will not break the fast. If a person was to rinse the mouth with water and spit the water out, and even if there was just a tiny bit of wetness that remained in the mouth because of this, and if that wetness was to be swallowed along with the saliva, this wetness was, if it was to mix with the saliva and then swallowed, this will not break the fast. Why? Because it is very difficult to avoid this. It's very difficult to remove all of this water when spitting the water back out. Okay, so because of this difficulty, the fast will remain valid. Likewise, if a person was to have their teeth removed, okay, if they were to go to the dentist and have the teeth removed, okay, then the fast will remain valid. This is provided that no blood or any liquid is swallowed, okay, and nothing of the like passes the throat. If it does, then the fast will break. As mentioned before, swallowing phlegm, this will not break the fast. So these are the acts that we have mentioned that break the fast, but they're the acts that do not break the fast. These are all the acts that do not break the fast. Now, inshallah, we'll be moving on to those acts which are makruh. Okay. So what does makruh here mean? Makruh here means that this is disliked by the Sharia. Okay. Even though it does not break the fast. So acts such as backbiting, telling a lie, swearing, these are acts which are sinful even out of the month of Ramadan, but during the month of Ramadan, these entail greater sin. Okay, the person will be even more sinful if he was to be doing any of these type of acts during fasting. Likewise, it is disliked here, it is makruh tanzihi for a person to taste or chew something without a valid reason. Okay, without a valid reason. So what is a valid reason? Such as, let's say if a person, he was a woman, okay, a mother, and she didn't have anything else to break the food down for the baby. For her, it is valid to break the food down by chewing on it. Okay, obviously ensuring that nothing is swallowed. This would be a valid reason. Okay, or likewise, let's say a person who is a chef. Okay, and the chef had a boss who was very strict. Okay, he knows that if the food was not very tasty, the chef will become very angry. Okay, and his job is on the line. Likewise, if a person has a business of buying fruit, buying any type of food and selling it, and without tasting it, if one feared that there would be loss, then again, all these are valid reasons. If there wasn't any valid reason, then tasting or chewing food will be makruh. For a person who's fasting, to gargle or to sniff the water into the nose, this will be makruh if the person was to exaggerate in this, okay? Whereby it is very likely that the water will be swallowed, okay? For this reason, it is better for a fasting person to not gargle and to not exaggerate in sniffing the water into the nose whilst performing wudu and ghusl. Once the person has completed the fast, and he may then gargle and sniff the water into the nose um, in order for him to fulfill the acts of ghusl. However, this will not be required if a person was, let's say, the ghusl was wajib upon him or her, and he was to wash the entire body, rinse the mouth out, and just to rinse the nose out, the ghusl will still be valid. The ghusl will still be valid. Likewise, to swallow saliva which has been collected in the mouth, this is makruh. Complaining of hunger and thirst, this is also makruh. We shouldn't do this. Brushing the teeth with toothpaste, okay, this should not be done during the month of Ramadan whilst fasting. Why? Because there is taste in the toothpaste, and it is very likely that there's a chance of the person swallowing the toothpaste. Instead, we can use miswak, and using miswak, person will be rewarded, and it does not break the fast as well. So, inshallah, we'll stop here, and then next time we will continue on from here, whereby we'll be learning about the mustahab acts and what is preferred during the month of Ramadan. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us for any mistakes that we have made. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to complete our fast of Ramadan and give us the ability to do more good deeds and complete our acts of worship. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين